I could have put crooked Hillary
I
in
respected
jail.
that you didn't, because what you said was it would be bad for the country.
No, I couldn't even imagine. You have, more importantly, the wife of the President of the United States of America going into jail. And if you ever saw when I'd say something about her, they'd all say, I didn't say it. I never said it. They say, lock her up, lock her up. And I'd always go, take it easy, just relax. We're going to win this thing. Take it easy, take it easy. And I'm telling you, I kept it down, just the opposite. Now they say, oh, Trump wanted to put her in jail. No, I saved her from going to jail.
It doesn't mean that Hillary would have been a good choice either. She was a terrible choice. She's a corrupt politician, one of the most unlikable people that's ever run for office. They were trying to get people to be supporting her just because she's a woman. This is going to be her history. Women, ladies, I stand with her. So there's all these women that have this blind allegiance towards this career politician, completely full of shit. She's been full of shit forever.
Two of the sharpest voices in politics and media collide to dismantle a towering figure nobody saw coming. Joe Rogan and Donald Trump deliver a relentless takedown of Hillary Clinton, exposing the cracks beneath her polished image. No holding back, no filter, just brutal truths about scandals, missteps, and missed chances. This isn't just a roast, it's the unraveling of a legacy that's far messier and more flawed than the story she's tried to sell for decades.
And I don't want Hillary Clinton to win. I think she's ridiculously awful too.
I think a lot of people really disliked Hillary.
They should. She got a shitload of money from banks. She's completely full of shit. She didn't like gay marriage till 2013. She didn't agree with gay marriage till 2013. Like, what are you, a dinosaur?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you even care? Because she's not real. She didn't care. She just was doing what she thought would support her position politically.
Joe Rogan and President Donald Trump taking aim at Hillary Clinton is the kind of political demolition that makes subtlety pack its bags and move to a remote island. Joe Rogan doesn't approach this like a polite talk show host with pre-approved questions. No, he treats it like a heavyweight fight in the octagon where the opponent already forgot their mouthguard. He swings with comparisons, gut punches of logic, and those bemused observations that make even the loyalists start checking their escape routes. Rogan has a knack for taking a subject, slicing it open, and leaving the pieces on the table without sugarcoating a thing. He turns Hillary's political career into a highlight reel of stumbles, miscalculations, and PR disasters that would make a sitcom writer feel guilty for exaggerating.
Yeah, she really did say that.
Yeah, she really did say that after she just got done Gaddafi and then laughed about it.
We came, we saw, he died.
We came, we saw, he died. The fact that any human being would ever do that. By the way he died, that's some dark.
I ask a simple question. She's been doing this for 30 years. Why the hell didn't you do it over the last 15, 20 years? You were very much involved. Excuse me, my turn. You were very much involved in every aspect of this country, and you do have experience. I'd say the one thing you have over me is experience, but it's bad experience because what you've done has turned out badly. For 30 years, you've been in a position to help, and if you say that I use Steele or I use something else, make it impossible for me to do that. I wouldn't mind.
If you're enjoying this video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. And then there's Donald Trump. Not just the current president of the United States, but a man who roasts like it's his second full-time job. Trump doesn't bother with fine surgical precision. He uses a flamethrower. Where Rogan dissects, Trump detonates. He doesn't just revisit Hillary's 2016 loss, he builds an entire comedy festival around it. He paints her as the political equivalent of a computer stuck in safe mode, unable to run anything but the same outdated programs. Every decision, every strategy, every attempt to stay relevant becomes ammunition in his relentless barrage. He has a unique way of reminding everyone that Hillary's biggest accomplishment might just be the fact that she made losing to him look like an Olympic sport.
One of the loopholes he took advantage of when he claimed $1 billion loss that enabled him to avoid paying taxes.
Did you use that $916 million loss to avoid paying personal federal income taxes?
Of course I do. And so do all of her donors, or most of her donors. I know many of her donors. I pay tremendous numbers of taxes. I absolutely used it. And so did Warren Buffett, and so did George Soros, and so did many of the other people that Hillary is getting money from. She complains that Donald Trump took advantage of the tax code. Why didn't she change it? Why didn't you change it when you were a senator? The reason you didn't is that all your friends take the same advantage that I do. And I do. You have provisions in the tax code that frankly we could change, but you wouldn't change it because all of these people give you the money so you can take negative ads on Donald Trump.
Rogan hits her on credibility. He breaks down how her shifting public positions are less about growth and more about a GPS signal constantly recalculating. He points to the infamous email scandal as the kind of blunder you'd expect from someone who thought delete was a security strategy. He skewers her habit of packaging herself as a relatable figure, noting how every attempt feels like it was beta tested in a corporate lab. When she tries to connect with average Americans, it comes off less like genuine empathy and more like a marketing campaign that forgot to hire focus groups from outside the political bubble.
I'm sure the Clintons were there at some point.
Maybe Bill.
Bill is so nice.
I went one time. Was he?
He's so nice. Like when I met
charming.
them, he is, and he's actually still kind of good looking. Like even for an older dude. Yeah, why not? He's still so good looking, and she's just so miserable.
Well, she's publicly humiliated, and she thought that her big retribution would become president.
Trump, meanwhile, treats the whole thing like a grand victory lap. He recalls the debates as if they were sporting events where the score wasn't even close. He revisits the night of the election, turning it into a dramatic, slow-motion replay where Hillary's blue wall crumbled into rubble. He mocks the post-election book tours and public appearances, framing them as an ongoing therapy session broadcast to the nation. For Trump, Hillary isn't just a past opponent, she's a permanent cautionary tale about what happens when political arrogance meets electoral reality.
Can fact check him in real time. Last time at the first debate, we had millions of people fact checking, so I expect we'll have millions more fact checking because, you know, it's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
Rogan digs into her record, from her Senate days to her time as Secretary of State, laying out a trail of decisions that aged like milk left in the sun. He doesn't just cite Benghazi, he unpacks it, showing how it became a symbol of mismanagement and poor judgment. He talks about the speeches to Wall Street bankers, highlighting how the gap between public promises and private assurances turned her into the poster child for political doublespeak. Rogan's style is to get the audience nodding in agreement before hitting them with a punchline that makes them laugh at the absurdity of it all. Trump doubles down on image. He labels her as the embodiment of the establishment, the kind of politician who talks change but delivers bureaucracy. He pokes fun at her campaign slogans, turning them into parodies that would look more at home on a bad t-shirt than a serious political rally. He doesn't shy away from personal jabs, but every insult is wrapped around a reminder that she lost to him, a fact he delivers like a magician, revealing the same trick over and over because the audience never stops cheering.
She deleted 33,000 emails.
I provided all my emails that could possibly be work-related.
Several thousand work-related emails that were not among the group of 30,000 emails returned by Secretary Clinton.
When they rigged the DNC, they rigged the primaries so that Bernie Sanders was going to lose.
I thought using one device would be simpler.
She also used numerous mobile devices to send and to read email.
She had her people into the DNC way in advance. That Donna Brazile book about it is mind-blowing.
Yeah. Rogan also addresses Hillary's media handling. He paints a picture of someone so rehearsed and overmanaged that spontaneity might actually cause her to short-circuit. He ridicules her awkward campaign moments, from stage candid photos to speeches that sounded like they were designed by committee. He notes how her attempts to appear modern and in touch often backfire spectacularly, creating memes faster than they create votes. Rogan's talent lies in making these moments feel less like isolated mistakes and more like symptoms of a larger disconnect between her and the public. Trump, on the other hand, is less interested in diagnosing and more focused on entertaining. His roasts aren't meant to be subtle. They're designed to leave a mark. He keeps returning to the fact that despite her decades in politics, her vast network, and her deep pockets, she couldn't beat him. A reality he treats as both hilarious and proof of her political ineptitude. Rogan's roast cuts deeper when he compares Hillary's political persona to a brand that refuses to update its logo. He talks about how she tried to ride the wave of modern progressive movements while still clinging to the old establishment playbook. The result, he argues, was a candidate who managed to alienate both the energized base and the cautious middle. Rogan's ability to blend political insight with comedic delivery makes his roast both stinging and oddly educational.
If you watch the conversation between James Comey,
110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information.
When James Comey testified about what he did and what they found with the Hillary Clinton emails, and then her version of it.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material.
She's just a straight liar.
Trump's portion is pure spectacle. He's not there to educate. He's there to entertain and dominate. Every line is a flex, every insult a reminder that he holds the title belt from their political clash. He brings up her high-profile allies, mocking how their endorsements seem to do more harm than good. He points out that even with the full force of the media, Hollywood, and the Democratic machine behind her, she still managed to lose. For Trump, it's the greatest punchline in modern political history, and he delivers it with the timing of a stand-up comic who knows the crowd is eating out of his hand. Rogan wraps his roast by noting that Hillary's relevance today exists more in punchlines than policy discussions, but with the kind of wry amusement that comes from watching someone refuse to read the room for decades. Trump closes his barrage by painting Hillary as the ultimate what could have been story. Except in his telling, it's more what never should have been. He ends on a victorious note, making sure that everyone listening remembers who came out on top.
November 5th will be the most important day, in my opinion, in the history of our country. Because if our country goes the wrong way with this election, I think this country is doomed.
What do you think your biggest challenge is with being elected?
Well, they've weaponized government. They've tried that one, and that drove me up. They're vicious people. These are vicious people. I could have done that to Hillary Clinton. What she did was so bad. She got a subpoena from the United States Congress, and she destroyed everything. You go to jail for that for years. And if you did it as a private person, you go to jail. But she destroyed everything. And I said, wouldn't it be terrible to have the wife of the President of the United States, a former President of the United States, being put in prison? And I meant that. I think it would be terrible.
And if there's one thing both Rogan and Trump agree on in their roasts, it's that Hillary Clinton's political legacy is less about trailblazing and more about tripping over the very path she tried to pave. This roast isn't just a comedic exercise, it's a tag team takedown where Rogan's precision and Trump's bombast combine into a performance that leaves the subject politically unrecognizable. For anyone watching, it's a reminder that when these two target the same person, there's no recovery, only the echo of laughter and the slow fade into irrelevance. Hillary Clinton's political brand has become the vintage wine nobody actually drinks but keeps on the shelf to prove they have taste. Donald Trump doubles down, dismantling her with the kind of blunt force confidence that turns her long-winded talking points into bloated balloons ready to pop. Together, they're peeling away the decades of spin like old wallpaper, revealing that underneath all the polish is the same outdated foundation that's been cracking since the 90s.
This one is wild. This is Hillary Clinton in like 2008, and Hillary Clinton saying some wild MAGA type shit.
Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked, they're gone. If they...
She's a Republican.
If they've been working and are law-abiding, we should say, here are the conditions for you staying. You have to pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally. You have to pay back taxes, and you have to try to learn English, and you have to wait in line.
You have to wait in line. You have to wait in line. It's
You couldn't believe that.
Illusion.
They slice through her public persona like it's paper thin, dragging out every failed rebranding attempt. Hillary the reformer, Hillary the progressive, Hillary the champion of women. Each as flat and unconvincing as a campaign ad nobody asked for. Rogan's takedown makes her look like a Netflix show that keeps getting renewed out of habit, not quality. Trump's roast turns her into the political version of Windows Vista, a system that promised everything but delivered pop-up errors and crashes at the worst possible times. The blows keep coming, hitting her record like a punching bag that's long overdue for retirement. Rogan points out how her supposed evolution is just a series of costume changes, switching from power suit to relatable grandma cardigan without ever changing the plot. Trump makes it worse by painting her as the permanent understudy in a political play where she's never going to be the star. And just when it seems like there's no more to say, they both go for the jugular, dismantling her entire legacy into a cautionary tale.
It doesn't mean that Hillary would have been a good choice either. She was a terrible choice. She's a corrupt politician, one of the most unlikable people that's ever run for office.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
They were trying to get people supporting her just because she's a woman. This is going to be her history. You know, women, ladies, I stand with her. So there's all these women that have this blind allegiance towards this career politician. It's completely full of shit. She's been full of shit forever.
Rogan frames her as the politician who wanted to be a revolutionary, but settled for being a trivia question. Trump finishes the job by portraying her as the greatest example of how political ambition without genuine connection leads to an empire built on sand. The audience can almost feel the collapse, brick by brick, as decades of carefully curated influence crumble into a pile of forgettable sound bites. It's not just a roast, it's a complete dismantling of her myth, leaving nothing behind but the echoes of what could have been. By the end, Hillary's image isn't just bruised, it's reduced to political dust, scattered by two relentless voices who show no interest in letting her rebuild.
On the day of the election, I think they had some crazy odds of Hillary winning. It was like in the 90%. We watched it from the Comedy Store. We did a podcast from the Comedy Store called the End of the World podcast. What was most fascinating was the podcast was over, and then we all went to the bar, and on the television, Jake Tapper was just seriously bummed out, talking about Trump winning all these different states.
And Anderson, it is hard to think of a political comeback that is actually more significant than this one. I'm tempted to say Richard Nixon, but that really falls short of what Donald Trump has achieved.
I think for a lot of people, that was the end of trust in mainstream media. That was the first nail in the coffin. That was to be like, you were so wrong.
And as the dust settles, the stage is left empty, the lights dim, and the only thing louder than the silence is the realization that this takedown will echo far longer than her last campaign slogan ever did. Hillary Clinton's political brand now sits like a museum exhibit nobody asked for. It's polished on the outside, but hollow in the middle, a relic from the era when political elites thought charisma was optional and accountability was a joke. The only thing keeping it from crumbling entirely is the fact that it's encased in the protective glass of media nostalgia. But time has a way of making the gloss fade, and when it does, the cracks will show. The applause that once surrounded her has thinned into awkward silence, replaced by the uncomfortable realization that the so-called inevitability was never real. In the end, Hillary's legacy isn't written in her victories, but in the long shadow of opportunities she let slip away. And as the roasts echoed louder than her speeches ever did, it became clear this wasn't just the end of a chapter. It was the closing of the book, with the cover slamming shut so hard the dust still hasn't settled.